Welcome, makers, to another month of Fiction Kitchen. This month, we're going to be sampling the ambrosia of the gods, which just so happens to taste like Sally Jackson's blue chocolate chip cookies. Percy Jackson's mom makes these chocolate chip cookies with blue food dye, and they're famous throughout Camp Half-Blood. It's not too hard to see why. They're warm and gooey, and the blue color reminds Percy and Sally of the sea. For this video, I'm going to be making two different chocolate chip cookie recipes. The first is based on my dad's personal cookie recipe, which makes the best tasting cookies in my opinion. Unfortunately, my dad's cookies don't take to the blue food dye as well, so I'm also making a batch using white cake dough. These cookies are a little too sweet for my liking, but they look perfect when they're dyed blue. Let's start with my dad's recipe. We start with half a cup of butter, melted in the microwave for about 15 seconds, and add in 1 cup of sugar and about a tablespoon of molasses. I never measure my molasses, I just want to pour a little bit in for about 2 seconds. When you mix all this together, it should have a nice medium brown color. Too dark and you added too much molasses, but too light and you'll need to add more. Next, I throw in 1.5 teaspoons of baking soda, half a teaspoon of salt, 2 teaspoons of vanilla, and 1 egg. Mix that all together until you get a nice runny consistency. At this point, I usually add in the chocolate chips and then my flour, but since we're dyeing the dough, I'm going to put the color in first. Add in 3 drops of a blue gel-based food coloring and work that into the mixture until it's a solid, even color. You can see that despite using blue food dye, my dough is coming out a bit more of a green color. That's because before I added the dye, the dough was kind of a brownish yellow color from the butter and the egg and the molasses. And when you mix blue and yellow together, you get green. It's not what I'm going for, but I don't mind because not only is green my favorite color, but seafoam green is also the color most associated with Poseidon, Percy's dad. To this mixture, I'm going to add 2 cups of flour. Whole wheat is the best, but you can use whatever you have on hand. I also added a little splash of water to help it mix better. Once the dough is ready, it's finally time to add the chocolate chips. I add mine straight from the freezer so they're less likely to melt in the dough and pick up on the blue-green coloring. I also used about 3/4 of a 12-ounce package. The last couple ounces I keep to snack on later. Preheat the oven to 375 degrees Fahrenheit and separate your dough out to make 4 dozen cookies. Each batch will bake for 9 minutes. Once they're done baking, set your cookies on the counter to cool. While I wait for these to cool down, I'll show you how to make the cake dough cookies. For this, I picked up a package of white cake mix. Take the dry mix and add 1/3 cup of vegetable oil and 2 eggs. Combine that well. Next, add 2 drops of a blue gel-based food coloring. You could add more if you want a deeper color, but too much might affect the taste of your cookies, so I'm sticking with 2. Fold and mix the dye into your dough until it's well combined and you have a consistent coloring. You can already see how much more vibrant the color takes to this mixture than the previous recipe. Finally, add your chocolate chips. Again, I'm going to use just 3/4 of a 12-ounce bag, saving the rest of the chocolate chips to snack on later or use in a different recipe. Same as before, preheat your oven to 375 degrees and separate your cookies out onto baking sheets. This recipe should also make 4 dozen cookies, and each batch cooks for 9 minutes. Once they're done, set them out to cool or start digging in. This side-by-side comparison of these 2 recipes makes it obvious which batch looks better, though I still prefer my greenish whole wheat cookies when it comes to taste. You should try making both to see which you prefer. Either way, I'm sure Sally Jackson would be proud of your baking skills. Thanks for joining along on our quest this month. Hope to see you again!